Joni Mitchell, one of the most revered songwriters of her generation, has spoken openly about clashing with fellow legends. Among those conflicts, her rivalry with Janis Joplin emerges as a central, and surprisingly intense, feud. Though both women were pillars of 1960s pop culture, they were often juxtaposed by critics and listeners. Yet behind the compares, both acclaimed and flat-out hated, lies a story of insecurity, competition, artistic identity, and the glaring sexism of the era, all culminating in Mitchell's candid assertion: Joplin hated her. The late 1960s folk rock milieu featured an array of strong female voices. Mitchell, Joplin, Baez, Collins, all vying for space not just in a male-dominated industry, but often against each other. Though Laurel Canyon fostered collaboration, Mitchell herself remarked that women songwriters, unlike their male counterparts, rarely bonded authentically, often due to the dog-eat-dog world they inhabited. In interviews, Joni was blunt about the dynamic. Joplin was very competitive with me, very insecure. She was the queen of rock and roll one year, and then Rolling Stone made me the queen of rock and roll, and she hated me after that. This speaks to more than personal friction. It's a reflection on the limited slice of fame available to women at the time. When Rolling Stone dubbed Joni Mitchell the queen of rock and roll, it wasn't just a flattering headline. It was loaded, anointing one woman queen in an era where female artists competed for validation. Mitchell's response, via song and interview, cut deep. According to both her and critics like Ellen Willis, it spoke to the industry's systemic sexism, which disallowed peer equality among women. It's easy to forget that Joni and Janis were often framed as opposite archetypes. Mitchell, the poetic folk intellectual; Joplin, the raw, visceral soul blower. That dichotomy alone fed the competition. Though both women attended similar events, they reportedly never socialized. Mitchell often declined shared billing or joint platforms, preferring artistic autonomy over camaraderie. There are no well-documented moments of the two having friendly exchanges, yet Mitchell implied that even their shared exclusion from a camaraderie hinted at mutual disdain. She recalled no fondness or connection with Joplin or other prominent female peers. In an interview, she also lumped Joan Baez and Laura Nyro into a broad category of competition, not companionship. Mitchell has always distanced herself from the so-called confessional label, even though it's applied widely to her. For her, authenticity mattered more than exhibitionism. That zero-sum universe of comparisons, who is more heartfelt, more soulful, only added fuel to the rivalry. To Mitchell, these dynamics were symptomatic of a scene that pitted women against each other while ignoring their individual artistry. Her critique of male songwriters was also sharp. She believed many were unsettled by her emotional candor. "They'd go, 'Oh no, do we have to bare our souls like this now?'" she remembered, pointing out that female artists got reprimanded for the honesty men were expected to deliver. Janis Joplin herself never spoke publicly about Joni Mitchell. Most of what we know comes from Mitchell's own statements. Though Mitchell's interpretation might be influenced by broader pressures, she never shrank from naming Joplin's resentment, even if no direct confrontation occurred. She painted Joplin as very insecure, and felt that when the crown shifted, even temporarily, that resentment crystallized. The competitive heat around labels like Queen or rock and roll royalty was more than symbolic. It was emotional territory with sharp edges. While the Mitchell-Joplin tension is the most dramatic, Joni also chimed in on other rivalries. Collins' rendition of Mitchell's "Both Sides Now" overshadowed Joni's own version commercially, earning her a Grammy. But Mitchell reportedly disliked that cover, describing Collins dismissively. Collins shrugged it off, saying she couldn't care less. Mitchell once said Dylan was not authentic at all, calling him a plagiarist. She criticized his voice, character, and presence with unusual venom, even though they toured together during Rolling Thunder Review. Some fans questioned the context, but Mia Mitchell left no ambiguity. Mitchell suggested that Slick and Janis had lost artistic integrity, alleging they slept with their whole bands and fell down drunk. Slick later fired back, joking that they didn't really fall down all that much. No love lost. These all suggest a mindset in which Mitchell saw authenticity and artistic evolution as incompatible with the theatrics or lifestyle of some peers. Interestingly, Mitchell's biggest public confrontation came not with another woman, but with Jann Wenner, co-founder and longtime powerful voice at Rolling Stone. Wenner's 1970s sexism, and the infamous Old Lady of the Year smear infuriated Mitchell enough to inspire her 1998 track, Lead Balloon, culminating in the lyrics. "Kiss my ass," I said, and I threw my drink. It came a trickling slash down his business suit. That song was her artistic middle finger to a system, and a man long dismissive of her talent. It wasn't a feud with a contemporary artist at all, but with the gatekeepers who defined rock and roll. Even so, it reinforced Mitchell's overarching theme. She stood outside the arena others tried to contain her within. Mitchell outlived many of her contemporaries. By the time Janny's died in 1970, Mitchell was already ascending. She continued evolving musically: Blue, Court, and Spark, Turbulent Indigo, Shine. Despite brain aneurysm and misfortune, she returned to public performance to acclaim in the 2020s, her genius reaffirmed. Joplin's legacy remains iconic but brief. Her death at 27 cemented her mythic status, yet mitigated any chance of evolution or reconciliation. Mitchell, meanwhile, documents every shift, publicly dissecting sexism, identity, and her own humanity, the incoming queen of folk. Unlike the male-dominated rivalries that played out in press or on stage, this tension was interpersonal, quiet, and reported later through interviews rather than public confrontation. Joplin and Mitchell were rarely ever billed together, so comparison came via critics, not collocation. Joni speaks about Joplin's resentment, Janny speaks of nobody. The silence on both sides means the story survives only through Mitchell's own retrospective honesty. Mitchell's conflict with Wenner and her observations about male singer-songwriters makes clear that women often bore the weight of systemic rejection, both from male peers and industry gatekeepers. The urge to label one woman the queen at the expense of others fuels division and competition, a dynamic that trapped Joplin and Mitchell in an ill-defined, zero-sum world. Mitchell prized authenticity above all. She criticized artists she felt were performative or self-serving, Dylan, Joplin, slick, even as she or her biographers conceded that she demanded a purity few could live up to. Mitchell's willingness to evolve, in music, politics, self-image, stands in contrast to artists whose early icons blazed fast and faded. She weathered tragedy, controversy, including her own blackface controversy in the 1970s, and reconciliation with her past. Joni Mitchell's unspoken feud with Janny's Joplin, or her assertion that Joplin hated her, reveals much more than personal animus. It's a window into the pressures women faced in the 1960s and 70s music space, forced into narrow roles, set against each other, and measured by labels that didn't fully reflect their artistry. Mitchell, in her own words and songs, resisted those limitations, from both sides now, to Lead Balloon, carving a path defined neither by romantic rivalry nor misogynistic gatekeeping. If this rivalry was ever secret, it's now illuminated by Mitchell's retrospective voice, a voice that refuses to bow to facile comparisons, even after half a century. In the end, the feud tells us less about Joplin or jealousy and more about the cost of creativity for women in a world determined to rank them.